I know what it's like. Your baby doesn't sleep. My baby doesn't sleep sometimes as well. So it's just sort of saying, we're here, we're there, we're not here to judge you. Can we help you? Is it, yes, I've had the same difficulty with toilet training. Come on, let's come in, we'll have a cup of coffee, we'll talk about it, we'll see what we can do together and then support our families in that way.
And welcome to the Leading With podcast. I'm Michelle Windridge, National Education Lead for School-Based Early Years at Twinkl. Today I'm joined by Alex Armstrong, Headteacher, and Anna Hughes, EYFS Lead from Bloemfontein Primary School. Hello both, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us, Michelle. It's lovely to be here.
So your school's been on quite a journey lately. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
We decided to apply for the school-based nurseries grant funding that was when it came out in October last year. We put together the bid, Anna and I. So Anna had just gone on maternity leave and I was pregnant with my second son. And we thought, now's the time. We'd always wanted to expand our nursery and it seemed like the perfect time to do it. So we put the bid together over the autumn term and we put it in, not really thinking much about it, to be honest. And then we found out we were successful in March. So in September, we opened our baby room and we expanded our 2-year entitlements and our preschool as well.
Fantastic. And I was lucky enough to come and visit your school not long ago. And it's just so welcoming and so inviting. It's beautiful, absolute beautiful environment.
We're so pleased you enjoyed coming to visit. We loved having you there.
I did. So what inspired your vision when you were thinking about expanding the provision?
So we both have early years backgrounds, so we knew that was really, really important to us. There's lots of research, lots of evidence to show that the early years is absolutely essential to get right. And so in school we have a mantra, don't we? And it's better start, better journey. And so we wanted to make sure that when we have our children in, we are reaching them as early as possible, basically, so that we can start to have those positive interactions, build those relationships, and have as much impact as possible.
I know, we're so passionate that you get it right in the early years, and we thought that by bringing in the children in earlier, so with our baby room, that this would provide the perfect climate for that.
And at the time of recording this yesterday, the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, made an announcement to the House of Commons that early years is the most important part of a child's education. It's where everything starts, which fits really nicely to your motto of better start, better journey.
Completely. No, we think getting it right in the early years, then you set children up for the whole of their educational career and their lives. It's so important to us that those children have access to fantastic early years education so that they can truly thrive throughout school.
And we've also, I think we have a really, really important job to get it right from the start for children, but also for families, because we have lots of families who perhaps haven't had an experience that we would have wanted for them or that they would have wanted in the past. And so we want to start building up relationships with parents where they feel like they do belong there and their children belong there.
And I think that's such an important point, isn't it? So when you get it right in early years, you become that community anchor for the whole of the community, so that people feel that schools can help their child, but they can also help the family, and you creating that joined up approach throughout the whole of their education.
Yeah, so having that awareness of the catchment area of your school and the needs of the community, how did that influence your expansion?
So we serve a diverse community. We have some areas of high deprivation, but we also have some pockets of affluence as well. So we were really responsive to the needs of the community. We consulted with the local authority, and we had over an 800-hour shortfall for under 2 provision. Wow. And around about a 550-hour shortfall for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. So for us, it was really crucial that we provided those spaces for children, because there is some wonderful examples of nurseries within the Stanley area. It's just that there isn't enough of them. So it was really important that we bore that in mind when we were putting in our bid and expanding our entitlement.
And you've mentioned the lack of early years provision in the local area. Am I right in thinking that you collaborated with some local PVIs to get ideas and staff training as you were setting up your own provision in school? How did that work?
We were really lucky with that. So we started off the consultation process by opening it up to parents, prospective parents in the local area to find out what exactly it was that they were looking for. And once we had that information, we then approached some local PVI settings that we know have really, really lovely, high quality early years provision. They have wonderful staff, and they were so helpful, weren't they? And we were so grateful for the support.
We were so grateful, and I think what's really important is they were saying to us, Alex, Anna, we'd love to take more, but we're full.
Yeah.
So it was really clear then that the shortfall in hours in the area, that people were really, really, really prepared to work together and to collaborate to make it the best situation for the children and the families in our area, our school, because yes, it is important for me that we collaborate and we work together, because I think it shouldn't be something that we gatekeep. It shouldn't be, I've got great provision, I'm not showing anybody. It's got to be, look, come see what we're doing. Come see, can I help you? Can you help me? Can we do something? Can we work together to improve this for the whole of our community, not just for small pockets?
And I think that's really apparent when visiting your school. You're very, very willing to allow others in to see what you're doing and support other settings and other schools. And there isn't this us and them relationship with local PVI settings. It's very much a collaboration. And Anna, I know your background is in PVI. Do you think that was an important part in developing the early years expansion?
I think it was absolutely crucial. I think there is so much that we in a school-based setting can learn from PVI settings, because they've got such a wealth of experience, and because they've got an early years specialism. So often in schools you train, if you're a qualified teacher, you train throughout that primary phase, and yes, there will be some focus on early years, but PVI settings have those practitioners who have spent their entire careers in that field. And so we can learn so much from them. And I think it was really important for me to make sure that we're getting it right, but also from a moral point of view, I felt it really important that, as Alex said, we didn't create a them and us, because it's not. And we need to make sure that we work together as an early years sector on the whole to make sure that we're all providing the very best that we can for our children in our areas.
And I think it is really, I was so fortunate that Anna's on my team and she does have that PVI experience, because her wealth of experience really supported us together to do the bid and to set up the provision, because I think we really complement each other in that way.
And I think that really comes across as well. It's very much been a team effort to develop your early years provision, and that shines through as well, that you've drawn upon the expertise of different members of staff and of the two of you as well.
Oh, you're completely right, Michelle. And we're so fortunate that we had staff that were really open to the idea. So I've got teaching assistants. So one of my teaching assistants is now in the baby room. She was in year 5, so she's retrained, but she had an early years experience before she was in year 5. But last year she was teaching in year 5, and this year she's gone to the baby room. So some people might think, "Oh my goodness, I'm not doing that," but she welcomed it and she is absolutely thriving. My lady that was in charge of the 2-year-old provision and the preschool provision last year, she became the baby room lead. So it's just really fortunate that we've got staff that are open and willing and to try new experiences. So we're really, really fortunate in that way, that everybody's really open to the idea of babies in school.
Oh, fantastic. So thinking about the building itself, you refurbished a building that you had already, which sounds like a really ambitious task for anyone, never mind both having babies and being on maternity leave at the same time. Can you talk me through that process a little bit?
Well, I think looking back now, I think we were a bit mad. But no, so we found out in the March that we'd been successful, and we knew that we wouldn't be able to start building work until the summer holidays. So we had very, very, very a tight schedule.
Yeah.
And we worked with our assets manager from our multi-academy trust, and we put together a plan for what we were going to do and when we were going to do it. So we worked very, very hard between that time. And obviously for the bid as well, we had to say what we wanted to do with our space. So I think everybody is affected really with the dramatic fall in roll in schools and the birth rate sort of slowing down, so that we did have a spare classroom that we weren't using. So we modified that room and we made it into our baby room. We also, so we have a full demountable unit which we've redesigned and recreated to be a whole birth to 5 unit.
Which I think is just so exciting in itself, because it really sets it apart as an early years unit now, doesn't it? We're birth to 5. So we've got this whole joined up journey that goes birth to the end of primary school, but we also get to have it just that special little early years bit just for us, where we can really, really hone in on the specialisms that are required for the youngest children.
And it's quite a homely environment. You don't feel like you're going into a school that's got a classroom with babies in there. You feel like you're going into a cosy, warm, nurturing environment. Was that important to you?
It was absolutely essential, wasn't it, I think? We are very aware that the sort of first reaction that some people might give about babies being in school is one of shock, perhaps.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to make sure that we were really, really clear that it's not to institutionalise babies. We're not putting babies in a classroom. We're trying to create these beautiful, calm, open spaces that allow children the time that they need to learn, with specialist staff to be able to do that. One of my absolute favourite areas in our unit is the early years dining hall. And so previously, when we had nursery children went across to main school for lunch, which was fine and it was nice. But when we were successful in the bid, that was one of the things that we really, really wanted, was to have a calmer, quieter space that allowed learning to happen all of the time. And it wasn't quick get in, have some lunch, quick get back out again. It was teaching life skills. It was teaching to use cutlery. It was teaching setting the tables and washing your face afterwards. And so all of the things that we put in place were designed purposefully for that. So the family style tables, the really low tables and chairs, even things like the high chairs, we purposefully chose because they're so low that children can, even the high chair babies can sit at the table with their friends and learn to eat and share together.
Yeah. It was lunchtime when I came to visit, so I got to see the dining hall, and it's very much the hub of the EYFS unit, isn't it? It was lovely, and the children, I think it was spaghetti bolognese, which is always an interesting one. So there was lots of it everywhere, but it was really lovely to see the independence being encouraged, and then the staff sat around sort of the family table as well. Sharing the experience. It was wonderful.
And for us it was really important that the baby sat with maybe a 4-year-old, just so that they can see their peers modelling those eating behaviours as well.
Yeah. So you had a vision for repurposing an existing space. You have already talked a little bit about the tight time scale. What challenges did you have within that tight turnaround of opening your provision?
So there were lots of challenges. We had to put in our Ofsted registration because it's a separate provision with it being birth to 2. Yeah. So we do have 2-year-olds already, but we didn't have many, and the space that we did have didn't really lend itself to the children and that provision. So we had to put in the Ofsted registration, which was an experience in itself. So there were very, very tight turnarounds because we have to obviously register the unit, register the birth to 2 provision with Ofsted, as it is a separate provision. So we put that in. We then had to make sure all the health and safety requirements were appropriate for the unit, and all of our policies and procedures were up to date. We had to make sure that the staffing was on par with what it needed to be. And then obviously there was the tight turnaround. So we have a fantastic assets team in our trust, and they were just absolutely brilliant, and the builders worked tirelessly. I mean, we had a very tight schedule, so I kept them on a tight leash, but it worked really, really well. And yeah, so we were actually finished a week earlier than we had planned to be.
Oh, wow.
Which
People
was great.
kept saying to us, oh, I bet you were so shocked when you came back after the 6 weeks. I kept saying, are you joking? I was in every other day going, what's new?
So it really was a labour of love, wasn't it? You were involved at every stage, despite expanding your own families at the same time. You were involved in overseeing the whole process.
Yeah, but like I said, we do have a fantastic team that worked with us, so that was really, really great. But yeah, I'm very, very proud of it, because I feel that it's extended that family feel to our school, and it really I really, really hope it sets us apart from other provisions, because I think that it is that community anchor.
Yeah, definitely.
But also we want everyone to come and see it as well, because we are so proud of it and it is working so well for us.
Yeah. So you made the decision to open your provision all year round. Can you talk me through that decision, please?
This was a really difficult decision for us. We thought about it. It's fine for us because we're both teachers, so we have the school holidays, so we don't need the childcare over the holidays. Mm-hmm. But when we were consulting with our local area, it was one of the points that was a sticking point for us, because a lot of parents need childcare and they need it outside of the school holidays. So it is very new to us, but we are looking at what that might look like. So we are open 45 weeks of the year, and we've creatively used contracts to support that opening. So yeah, it is in its infancy, so I really hope it does work. That it is, I think, with a little bit of creativity and with a little bit of support from our trust, we're able to maximise resources to be able to do that.
Brilliant. And again, it's thinking about what your community needs. And that's a massive barrier for some parents, isn't it? When choosing provision, having that all year round care.
I'm really excited to see what impact it'll have because we've all been teachers or are teachers, and having the children not with us for a full 6 weeks, when they do come back, there is always a difference, and it takes a little while to get children back into those routines and back to how tired you can be after a full day, busy day of learning and playing. Yeah. So perhaps I'm really interested to see how that will look when children are attending all year round.
Yeah, definitely. So you've talked already a little bit about how much early years means to you, and the fact that you've both got an early years background has been key to this project. Can you tell me a little bit about the curriculum in your early years and why that's so important to you?
Do you want to
Shall I go? Yeah. So we thought really, really carefully, because again, we know that what we don't want to do is bring babies into a classroom environment, for example. So we're not going to be sitting down and having a science lesson. But what we wanted to do was make sure that we have a really joined up approach. So actually science in some way will start with babies, it will start at birth. And so the example that Alex and I had been talking about was the seasons in autumn, because that's where we are at the moment. So science is reflected through our baby curriculum in that it's very hands-on. We want our babies and our young children to be outside every single day, so they get to feel what that gust of wind feels like and what that rain feels like. It might be for our 2-year-olds that they start to go out and they explore and ask their own questions about why those leaves have fallen down, why have they changed colour, what colours might I find. When we get to preschool, that might look a little bit different, because they might begin to record their own observations because they're so excited. When we go out on our autumn walks and they can see the changes in that early years garden, and then so that by the time the children get to reception, they're in a position where they can go out and they can do field research, for example. So we have a very bespoke curriculum for our 0 to 2s that focuses really, really heavily on the prime areas of learning and those really crucial things like building the key person role. But also we have a really joined up approach throughout the whole primary.
I think it's about the strong attachments, isn't it? And making sure that they have really firm foundations, so that when they are going to transition into the 2 room, that they have all of those basic skills that we want them to be ready to then thrive in the 2s, to then be ready to then thrive in the preschool room, to then be ready to thrive in reception. So I think we're really lucky that we have this birth to 11 option now, because we can really, really, really work with the parents, work with wider stakeholders, work with special educational needs coordinators if that's what we need to do, because we're making sure that our children have the firmest foundation so that they have the strongest building blocks for their lifelong learning journey.
And when I visited, there was a group of children preparing for a supermarket visit. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So we have our early years cookery programme. So we take across the whole year, we take a small group of children every week to our local supermarket. So they research the recipe that we'll be doing, they write their list of ingredients, and we then get on the bus and we go up to the local supermarket where the children hold their basket and they shop for the ingredients that they need. They use their money to pay for it, and we come back and we follow the recipe. And this group of children is a mixed age group. So again, when we're talking about that family feel and learning from each other in the way that siblings might learn from each other, we've got reception children, preschoolers and 2-year-olds in that small group. So they get to make their recipe according to the instructions, and we then serve it to the whole unit the following day for our snack time. So they really take pride in getting to share it out with their group.
And it was lovely yesterday. So Mrs. Hughes came and knocked on my office door, and she said that Mrs. Armstrong's here and we need to ask her for the school card or the money that we need to do it with. So they knocked, and one of the little girls says, "No, you've got to knock and then wait till Mrs. Armstrong says come in." So one of the reception children was holding the little 2-year-old's hand. So it was really lovely. So I think it's that peer learning as well that really supports that too.
And hopefully that will remain with them as they move up the school as well. So they're not just friends and supportive of people in their own year group, but they've got relationships with the years above and below as well.
Yeah, and I think what we've been trialling as well, sorry, and I think what we've been trialling as well is seeing how our older pupils can support too. So when children come in to the main school gate, some of our year 6 children or our year 5 children support them to enter the unit. So they'll leave their parents, but then they'll hold their hands and take them round. So it's just about creating that family feel, because for me it's so important that we teach our older children how to look after our younger children and how to look after our school environment, so that when they do leave us, that they have that sort of empathy and respect that they will look after other people and our environment.
It's so important. So we've talked a little bit about staffing already, and I know that nurturing staff that are new to early years is something that you're really passionate about. Can you talk me through your apprenticeship programme?
Well, that's a really important next step for us, because it means that we can train our staff because of the early years staffing crisis that there is. It's really important that the talent that we bring in, we're able to train and able to support them as best as we can. So becoming that provider means that we can really support our students and our apprentices coming in, because we already have quite a few students, PGCE students, university students, and T-level students. So for us, the apprenticeship scheme was a great next step, because it means that we can really show our apprentices how we want them to work and how we want them to be in their career. And I think it's also really important, because I think it's that next level, isn't it? So you are supporting people that might have left you in primary school at 11 and are going to college, and they think, actually, do you know, that was my primary school, I would love to do an apprenticeship there, and isn't it great that they can support me with that? So that's a great next step for the trust as well.
Yeah. Some people are quite critical of the idea of having under twos in a school setting. What would your response be to that?
Well, I think it is highly controversial, isn't it, having under twos in school? I mean, I've been at conferences before when people have said, laughed at me and said, oh, you've got to have them wear a uniform and things like that. And I think it is very controversial, but I think we are so fortunate that we have the right climate. Anna's got her PVI background. We've got staff that really, really, really want to do it. I think that because we are such a huge part of the community, I think it's really important to us that we get our children in earlier so that we can support them and offer a huge joined up approach. I think it's great that we can pull on the resources of the school, so our SENCO will support in the baby room as well. So we have a family liaison officer that can support families to signpost them to services, so toilet training, sleep workshops, behavioural support. So it's really important that under that one roof of the primary school that we can offer so much more. Because we are a through primary school, we're birth to 11, we can pull on the resources of the whole provision.
Over the last few years, we've really noticed a dismantling of the support services that were around families. So things like the parent and toddler groups, things like the Sure Start centres, things like how stretched some health visiting services are. And so what we really, really wanted to do was to make sure that the school becomes the hub of the community again. And we'd love that to be from birth So we are looking at things like sleep workshops that we can offer to parents. We're looking at things like weaning, advice and support, and those sorts of things that perhaps previously you might have been able to ask groups or toddler groups, what have you done that's worked well, and I'm really struggling with this, and sometimes that option hasn't been available recently.
And I think, having just had babies ourselves quite recently, I think it is such a vulnerable time for a lot of families, because I'm really fortunate that I have support at home, but I also have support at work as well. And I think that for some people that just isn't there, so we would really like to offer it in a non-judgmental way. So I know what it's like. Your baby doesn't sleep. My baby doesn't sleep sometimes as well. So it's just sort of saying, we're here, we're there, we're not here to judge you. Can we help you? Is it... yes, I've had the same difficulty with toilet training. Come on, let's come in, we'll have a cup of coffee, we'll talk about it, we'll see what we can do together, and then support our families in that way, so that we create that sense of belonging, because you are very vulnerable when you've just had a baby and you're setting out, and I think it is such a personal thing, isn't it? You think, am I doing it right? Oh my goodness, I'm looking at everybody, they can do it so great, and I'm standing here knee deep in a whole pile of nappies, and what am I doing wrong? So I think it's just being that service, or that welcoming community that can say, come, let's have a coffee, let's talk about it, what can we do to help?
And wonderful that you're able to create that relationship with parents and carers so early on as well, so that as their children move through the primary school, they know that they can talk to you, they know that they can come to you, and vice versa, and it's a two-way communication. Completely.
And for me that's really important, because we always have to have difficult conversations in school. So if you've had that relationship with your parents and the wider community, it's much easier to have, and you can have those difficult conversations, and you can celebrate wonderful conversations as well. But it's just that, hopefully, it's like a family. You've got that sense of belonging, and sometimes there are times when you're not happy with your family, and sometimes there are times when you are really happy with your family, but you have to be able to talk about it. And I sometimes think in our profession it gets a bit us and them, and that's what the barriers that we're trying to break down.
Especially for those parents that maybe haven't had great experiences themselves going through the education system.
Completely. And I think those hard to reach parents can be standoffish sometimes, but I think it's just having those conversations and being open and honest and transparent, and saying, I know it's difficult for us too, let's come in together and let's find a way through this together to make it better for your child.
And I know it's very early days, you only opened a matter of weeks ago, but have you started to notice any impact on your local families, on your local community already?
Oh, we've had a really, really positive reaction from the community. Almost everybody that comes through the door, that comes to have a look at it, almost everybody signed up with us. And they tell us that they love how welcoming and calm it is. And they tell us that they like how friendly our staff are. We have got one family, for example, who are planning to move into the area, but they loved it so much, they loved our setting so much, that they're actually driving from out of the area to bring their child to us, because they want to start laying down those foundations and building up that community and relationship now. So I thought that really made me feel really proud of what we've created, because people want to be part of that community.
Yeah, I think where it is slightly difficult for us is that some of our families are not necessarily entitled to the working hours, working parents entitlement, so that we have tried to be creative with the use of our resources, our family liaison officer, to offer things for children that we know it would benefit, but they're not entitled to those hours. Because for me, I think it's vital that we get this right, but if we are providing that service for families that are working, what are we doing for those families that aren't working? Because the gap will only just widen if you get to 2 and they've had that provision, the 30-hour entitlement. So it's really important to us that we work with the local community, and we put on little bounce and rhyme sessions or mini library visits for those children that might not be entitled to our 30-hour entitlement, but that they're not wholly missing out. I know it's a small step, but it is something towards trying to recoup that gap.
And again, building that relationship with those families that might be a bit harder to reach in those early days.
We also had to think really carefully, didn't we, about those parents who are harder to reach because of employment commitments. So the 0 to 2 provision is almost entirely working parent entitlement funded children. So when we're looking at parental engagement things, stay and plays, we had our lovely harvest stay and play where the children made soup to share with their families. But we had to think about when in the day that would be. And so actually we had a daytime harvest celebration, but we also had harvest supper so that working parents were always going to be included, and that's something that we think is really, really important. We're going to keep up with, isn't it?
Well, we know that our parents are in the optimum position to support their children's learning at home. So it's really important that we are creative with where we put our stay and plays for our working parents, because if somebody said to me, come to a stay and play at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's not going to work,
I used to miss all of them for my children. It's all part of that inclusion, isn't it? And making sure that belonging that you've talked about.
Yeah. So for us, the ladies in the baby room were fabulous, didn't they? They stayed back and they did a harvest supper. So it was so lovely. They had jelly spiders and things for Halloween. So the babies were in the jelly. I think more jelly got eaten.
Once they discovered it was edible.
But it was just really important that our working parents don't miss out on that as well.
We've covered quite a lot in this episode, squeezed a lot in. If you had to sum up the heart of your project, the heart of the expansion of your early years in one sentence, what would it be?
Our expansion has enabled us to truly live and breathe our motto of better start, better journey, from fostering genuine parent partnerships to supporting our youngest learners. It really has enabled us to fulfil our vision of what we wanted our education to look like. It's a very long sentence.
Very long but beautiful sentence, and I think it sums everything up beautifully that we've talked about. Thank you so much for taking the time away from school to meet with me today. It's been a pleasure. I could chat to you both all day long. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for having us.